Well, welcome back. A number of things to discuss this week. I'll go through them as rapidly as I possibly can. First of all, for those of you who've moved to Chile, who think that you could get away from Obama or whatever else that you were fleeing from, congratulations. You're on the verge of electing another communist president of Chile. In this case, it's Michelle Bachelet. During the Pinochet regime, she fled Chile because she was one of those that was persona non grata within her own country, and we hear a lot of things today against Pinochet. But the thing is that she fled to East Germany under the old Soviet bloc, one of the worst countries for totalitarianism that there was at the time. So that's going to be your new president if everything goes according to what they say is going to happen at the polls. You can't run away from it. You've got to do it here. If we don't save the United States, I don't care where you go to, unless it's the interior of Borneo or New Guinea, are you going to escape the problems of big government? And there, you got cannibals. What can I say? Headhunters, anyway. Another thing that's happened recently, we see, is that the fence along the border at Tijuana, they're going to build a bridge across it now. They built the fence to keep people out, and now they're going to build a bridge so that you can use the Tijuana airport. It would seem to me that maybe they could just build a hole in the wall or something. I don't know. What do I know? All I know is that the fences aren't working. And by the way, if you want to really look at the fence along the border, in some areas, like Nogales and others, go a few miles out of town, you'll find that the fence no longer exists. Oh yeah, they call it a fence, but it might be 8x8s crossed to look like a ranch front yard in Texas, or it could be that they are steel posts pounded into the dirt that are specially designed to hold barbed wire. Every rancher uses them. You can see them all over the place. You've probably not noticed them. But in the case in the border along Mexico, they have barbed wire, barbed wire, barbed wire, but the bottom wire is not barbed because they don't want to scratch the people that are crawling under the fence. Honestly, I've seen photographs of it. It exists. And let me tell you another little thing that's very interesting. You know, the Obama administration is talking about the statistics going down for illegals coming across the border. Don't believe it. I have it on good authority. I can't tell you where I get this, but it's good authority, that the border guards, at least in one area, have been told if you see that someone has crossed the border and you follow them, and you lose track of them, you are to put in your report that they turned around and went back into Mexico. Therefore, nobody is lost, nobody came into the country illegally, etc., etc. It's a lie, but that's what they've been ordered to do. So much for that. Another thing is that we see in this whole Obamacare is the idea that somehow the Republicans need a plan. Here, for instance, a real market-oriented conservative reform would take us towards an actual functioning consumer market in coverage. Well, how are you going to have the reform? The reform comes through government. You can't do it through a private enterprise situation. Everybody builds their own insurance policies. Everybody searches for their own insurance, etc. It's a free system. You don't reform it. The only way you reform it is from government. So this whole chaos that's being created through this thing called Obamacare is well designed. Now, you say it's incompetent, the thing isn't working, on and on and on and on, but in reality what is happening is exactly what they want to happen. They are building chaos. Now, what happens when they build chaos? The average American citizen does what? He looks to government for the solution. Oh, please, give us a government plan that works. Even Republicans are saying we've got to fix it. No, we've got to get rid of it and get back to free enterprise. If you don't get your own insurance, that's your responsibility. And we've got to rebuild responsibility back into the American public instead of looking for government or somebody else to give them a handout or help them in things that they should be doing for themselves. It's just the way it is. If we keep going the way we are going to end up with a government system, total grave, from birth to grave. And that's exactly what they want. And that's why they're creating this system. Even the Republican plan that they passed last Friday is wrong, because it is actually creating more problems for the insurance companies. I mean, here you've got an insurance company. It sent out tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions if you put it all together, to their clients saying, we can't do this anymore because Obamacare won't let us do it. Now you're telling us, oh yes we can, in fact you have to, and so now we've got to go back to square one and start all over again, and then we're not sure that it's not going to change in a little while. And besides that, the bill only said for a year. So we're going to give them a year to codify this new law, to get it in shape, and the Republicans have done that for us? Oh, thank you very much. The Republicans should have put another bill on the floor that said, get rid of this program, not give it a year's extension. Republicans. I know, I used to work with them, and believe me, they're not all real, honest Republicans as you and I think of Republicans. The leadership of the House has done it again to everybody, and if you look at these individuals who, like Boehner and others, they're not constitutionalists by any stretch of the imagination. We see in today's Wall Street Journal an article, or an opinion actually, by Mary Anastasia O'Grady, who sometimes is very good, sometimes she's not. But she has an article in here on what Castro knew about Lee Harvey Oswald. If you can get it, access it online, whatever, I suggest that you read it. It's pretty good. And she demonstrates that there's a lot of questions about what Castro knew before the fact relative to the assassination of President Kennedy. You know what they're trying to do now is to shift the blame on the John Birch Society. You know, the John Birch Society, was to blame for the atmosphere of hate in Dallas. And somehow this atmosphere of hate led to a communist Marxist to shoot the president. Now, does that really make sense to you? They're trying to change the whole picture of what happened with Kennedy, including the next article underneath that is exposing the myth of JFK's politics. And basically what it is they're trying to make Kennedy now into some sort of conservative. Now listen, I lived through those years. I was scared to death when J.F. Kennedy was killed, that some deranged individual that they could somehow tie to the anti-communist movement killed Kennedy. When the subsequent events came out and demonstrated that it was Lee Harvey Oswald, it became very obvious that a communist killed Kennedy. That's simple. He wasn't a communist? Well, then why did he live in Russia? Why did he go to the Cuban embassy? A number of things like that. Even while he was in the Marine Corps, not later. And so from the very beginning, Cuba knew about this guy wandering around, professing the idea that he was a communist and wanted to kill Kennedy. So what can I say? But they're trying to now shift it over to the right wing, the John Birch Society, and therefore the Tea Parties, because after all, everybody knows that the Tea Parties were started by the John Birch Society. Well, at least that's what they say in the newspapers. So those are the sorts of things going on. Another thing that ought to get your ire up is that Russia now wants to put GPS monitoring inside the United States, about a half dozen of them. And a lot of people are kind of concerned, because what does GPS do? It locates where things are, right? Now, wouldn't it be nice if we had GPS inside of Russia to make sure that our weaponry the incoming weaponry is landing where it's supposed to land? And these jackasses in our own government are allowing the Russians to put GPS monitoring inside the United States? At any rate, I think I'll probably leave it at that, except one more thing. Now that we've done the job in Afghanistan and we're getting out, opium production is the highest that they've ever had. Isn't that nice? We were told that one of the reasons we went into Afghanistan was to stop the opium trade, and now it's reaching record heights. What can I say? We've got to get active. You have to get active. These are just a potpourri of some of the problems, some of the things that are really wrong with our own government. And we've got to solve these things by working together in a complete, monolithic action education program of the American people. You know, we can survive Obama, but can we survive the people that vote for him? I don't know. We have to get involved in educating the American public. And that's what we do in the John Birch Society. Until next week, we'll see you then.